The landlord awakens in his apartment, where the game cleverly integrates tutorial elements into the environment itself. His first official task is a simple one: collect the monthly rent from all the tenants in the building. This routine chore serves as the initial method for interacting with each character. While watching television, a news report details the discovery of a mysterious underground facility. Inside, authorities found thousands of empty, human-sized boxes. This eerie discovery strongly hints at the unnatural origin of the doppelgangers that have begun to appear throughout the city, including the landlord's building. Exploring the apartment reveals a selection of bizarre television shows, contributing to the game's surreal and humorous atmosphere. One program is a soap opera parody titled My Nurse is a Giant Green Monster, which adds a layer of dark comedy to the otherwise tense setting of the game. Another strange TV show is a short horror film called The Curse of the Blood-Stained Pink Curtain. This segment features some genuinely unsettling body horror concepts, effectively establishing a dark yet quirky mood that defines much of the game's unique and memorable player experience. Before starting his duties, the landlord partakes in a simple meal of a garlic burger and a soda. This moment of mundane routine provides a sharp and effective contrast to the impending horror of his primary task, which is to hunt down and identify the hidden doppelgangers living among his tenants. The landlord gets his first look at the diverse and eccentric cast of tenants by peering through his peephole. He assigns them all temporary, humorous nicknames like Red Riding Hood, Weird Al, and Mario, setting a comical tone for his initial interactions with the building's strange residents. The rent collection process begins with the first tenant, a very tall and cheerful woman. The game allows the player to officially name each resident, and the dialogue options presented are often witty and humorous, which helps to characterize the landlord as a sarcastic but observant the landlord. He moves on to the next tenant, a shy young man wearing a hoodie, whom he decides to name Edgelord. These initial interactions are crucial as they establish a baseline for each tenant's personality and behavior before the intense doppelganger hunt officially gets underway later in the game. A friendly bald man is next on the list for rent collection. The landlord's dialogue choices can often be rude or insulting, leading to some tense but funny reactions from the various residents. This interactive element allows the player to shape the landlord's personality and relationships within the building. The fourth tenant the landlord visits is a grumpy, middle-aged man wearing a robe, whom he nicknames Al. This process of systematically collecting rent serves as the primary method for introducing the player to each character's core traits before the true nature of the game's conflict is revealed. A short and cheerful woman, later named Muppet, is incredibly happy to see the landlord. She is one of the first tenants to be openly receptive to his flirtatious advances, a recurring theme as he attempts to charm most of the residents, regardless of their strange appearances or personalities. Next, the landlord meets a tall and beautiful model he nicknames Hat. Unlike some of the other tenants, she is completely unimpressed with the landlord's attempts to flirt with her. This interaction quickly establishes her personality as aloof and perhaps out of the landlord's league, adding another unique character to the mix. The landlord encounters a man with a large, bushy mustache who bears a striking resemblance to a legally distinct version of Mario. This tenant is exceptionally friendly and immediately establishes a positive rapport with the landlord, presenting himself as a potential ally in the strange apartment complex. A woman with weary eyes who apparently suffers from insomnia is next on the list. Her perpetually annoyed and tired demeanor provides a stark contrast to some of the other, more cheerful or eccentric tenants, adding to the building's diverse and memorable cast of characters. He then meets a bearded man who has a peculiar and unsettling habit. He never blinks. This becomes an immediate red flag based on the information provided later in the game. The man also reveals himself to be a big fan of anime adding another layer to his strange personality. A peculiar person with reddish hair and an unusually long neck engages the landlord in a deep conversation. They discuss their philosophical views on death and the afterlife, further cementing the apartment building's reputation as a home for some of the city's strangest and most eccentric individuals. A goth woman with vibrant green hair and mysteriously obscured eyes greets the landlord at her door. Her dialogue is both flirtatious and cryptic, leaning heavily into common goth and yandere character tropes. This adds another layer of genre-savvy humor to the game's already quirky and diverse cast. The final tenant to pay rent is a woman who is completely obsessed with staring at a wall in her apartment, earning her the nickname Anime. Her strange and singular fixation makes her an immediate and obvious suspect for being a doppelganger, even before the hunt officially begins. After successfully collecting rent from all 12 tenants, a soldier suddenly appears at the landlord's door. He reveals the terrifying truth: dangerous doppelgangers have infiltrated the building. The soldier then officially tasks the landlord with the mission of identifying and reporting the imposters living among the residents. The soldier provides the landlord with crucial clues for identifying the doppelgangers. He explains that they often have behavioral inconsistencies. Most of them do not blink, and they might fail to react when called by a fake name. This information becomes the cornerstone of the landlord's investigation. The landlord experiences a surreal and unsettling dream where he meets a mysterious, masked female doppelganger. Speaking to him telepathically, she reveals that she is incomplete and is desperately searching for her lost brother, asking the landlord for his help in locating him within the building. The first official day of the investigation begins, marking a significant shift in the game's focus. The landlord must now systematically interrogate all the tenants in the building. His goal is to find the imposter among them by carefully applying the specific clues the soldier previously provided him. The landlord begins his interrogations with the tall woman, questioning her about her family life, including her children and husband. Her answers seem to be perfectly consistent with her initial, cheerful personality, which makes her seem human for the time being and less of a suspect. The interrogation of Edgelord reveals a key inconsistency in his story. He previously had a noticeable stutter and claimed to like the color blue, but now he denies the stutter and insists his favorite color is green. This blatant contradiction immediately marks him as a doppelganger. The bald man reacts with anger when asked about his concern for the planet, a response that is consistent with his cynical personality. He also seems to possess some vague, folkloric knowledge about doppelgangers, which doesn't necessarily mark him as either human or an imposter just yet. Al, the perpetually grumpy tenant, quickly dismisses any questions about soldiers or the other residents, maintaining his cantankerous but seemingly human personality. His reactions are completely consistent with his established character, making him a low-priority suspect in the ongoing investigation for the doppelganger. Muppet reacts sweetly and fondly, remembers the date they had planned together. Her responses perfectly align with her friendly and slightly naive personality. This consistency suggests that she is still human and not an imposter, allowing the landlord to focus his suspicions on other tenants for now. Hat, the model, is once again disgusted by the mere suggestion that they are dating, which is consistent with her previous firm rejection of the landlord's advances. This behavioral consistency strongly points towards her being human, as her story and attitude have not changed at all since their first meeting. The legally distinct Mario makes an impossible claim. He says he grew his mustache overnight. Furthermore, he mentions sold the distinctive hat he was wearing just the day before. These clear physical and behavioral inconsistencies immediately mark him as a definite doppelganger. The woman with insomnia makes a startling claim during her interrogation. She now says she has been getting a lot of sleep lately, which is a direct contradiction of her defining character trait. This sudden and unexplained change in her condition makes her a very strong suspect. The non-blinking man who loves anime now claims to dislike beards, despite currently having one. This blatant and nonsensical contradiction confirms that he is a doppelganger. His story is inconsistent, and he fits the profile of an imposter trying to poorly imitate a human. The person with the unusually long neck maintains their belief in ghosts and their stated enjoyment of loneliness. By showing strong personality consistency and sticking to their previously established views, they appear to be human and are therefore a lower priority in the ongoing doppelganger investigation. The goth woman remains consistently flirtatious and cryptic, which is perfectly in line with her established archetype. Her reactions during the interrogation do not betray any major inconsistencies in her story or personality, suggesting that she is most likely human and not an imposter. Anime, the wall starer, now claims that she keeps her money under her bed instead of in her bra, where she claimed it was previously. This change in a key, specific detail is a major red flag, marking her as a very likely doppelganger trying to imitate her victim. At the end of the day, the soldier returns to get a report from the landlord. The landlord must identify one doppelganger from his interrogations. He confidently chooses the non-blinking man, who is then promptly taken away by the soldier's team and eliminated from the building for good. The second day of the investigation begins with a terrifying and unexpected twist. A mysterious gas has been released throughout the entire apartment building. This chemical agent causes all the tenants, both human and doppelganger alike, to mutate into grotesque and monstrous forms, complicating the investigation. The tall woman has mutated, now sporting elongated limbs, but her personality remains loving and motherly. She expresses deep worry about her own mutated children, a very human concern. This suggests that despite her horrific new appearance, her core identity has not been compromised by a doppelganger. Edgelord's face has mutated into a horrifying visage, but the real clue is in his behavior. He now completely denies ever having a stutter, confirming the doppelganger status that was suspected from the previous day's interrogation. His story remains inconsistent, proving he is an imposter. The bald man's body has undergone a grotesque transformation, with grass growing from his skin and his eyes popping out of his head. Despite this horrific appearance, his cynical and eco-conscious personality remains perfectly intact, suggesting he is still the same person underneath the mutations. The cheerful woman known as Muppet is now covered in grotesque holes from which worms are emerging, and she disturbingly calls them her babies. Her sweet and caring personality remains, though it has been twisted by the mutation. She still seems to be the same person at her core. The friendly Mario tenant has also mutated into a monstrous form. When questioned about his appearance, he falsely claims to have shaved his mustache, a lie that confirms he is the doppelganger that the landlord had already identified during the previous round of interrogations. He is clearly an imposter. The insomniac woman is now a horrifying creature covered in eyes, and she denies ever having insomnia in the first place. This complete reversal of her core, defining trait strongly suggests that she was replaced by a doppelganger at some point, as her story has fundamentally changed. The goth woman has mutated, but is still completely true to her established archetype. She is flirtatious and asks the landlord if he likes her new monstrous body. Her personality remains perfectly consistent, indicating that she is likely still human despite her grotesque physical transformation. Anime has also undergone a severe mutation. She now shockingly claims to hate walls, a complete 180-degree turn from her previous obsession with them. This drastic personality shift confirms without a doubt that she is a doppelganger who has failed to properly imitate her victim. The soldier returns for his daily report. The landlord correctly identifies Mario from apartment 8 as the doppelganger, citing the inconsistent story about his mustache. The soldier's team then moves in and removes the imposter, leaving one less threat for the landlord to worry about in the building. In another surreal dream sequence, the landlord finally meets the bro, who is the brother the mysterious female doppelganger was searching for. He chillingly reveals that he was the one who led the doppelganger revolution, and that he has chosen the landlord as his next victim to replace. On the third day, the soldier explains that the gas was a failed experiment meant to reveal doppelgangers. The tenants have now reached their final mutation stage, barely resembling humans and potentially having lost their sanity, making identification of the imposters even more challenging than before. The tall woman's mutation is now complete. In her confused state, she believes that the landlord is her husband and that her children have transformed into screaming worms. However, her core persona as a caring if delusional mother seems to be intact, suggesting she is still human. Edgelord, now fully mutated and more confident, continues to deny his previous traits. He states that he never stuttered and that green was never his favorite color. These repeated inconsistencies reaffirm that he is, without a doubt, a doppelganger who has replaced the original tenant. The grumpy tenant, Al, now has tentacles and emits a foul odor, but his core personality is completely unchanged. He continues to make sarcastic "your mom" jokes, which serves as strong evidence that he is still the same person underneath his monstrous new exterior and not an imposter. The woman who once suffered from insomnia is now a horrifying being covered in countless eyes, and she speaks in plurals, saying things like, "We see you." She once again denies ever having insomnia, which serves as the final confirmation of her status as a doppelganger. The formerly wall-obsessed anime is now blind, with writhing worms coming out of her empty eye sockets. She states that she can no longer see walls and therefore doesn't know if she is still attracted to them, confirming the behavioral inconsistency and her status as a doppelganger. At the end of the day, the landlord reports Edgelord as the doppelganger based on his consistently changing stories. The soldier confirms the choice is correct and the imposter is eliminated. This leaves only 2 known doppelgangers remaining among the mutated residents of the apartment complex. On the final day, the soldier returns with grim news. The entire situation is a lost cause, and the government has decided to nuke the city to contain the threat. He gives the landlord a shotgun and instructs him to end the suffering of all remaining tenants, human or not. The landlord begins his grim and final task. He confronts the heavily mutated tall woman. Despite her monstrous and terrifying appearance, he recognizes the humanity still within her and makes the difficult decision to spare her life, leaving her to her fate in the doomed apartment building. He then confronts the woman who was once an insomniac, recalling her blatant inconsistencies, such as denying her well-established medical condition. He correctly identifies her as a doppelganger. With no hesitation, he eliminates the imposter using the shotgun provided by the soldier. The landlord finds the wall-obsessed anime, who has also been confirmed as an imposter. Knowing that she completely changed her personality and denied her single defining trait, he executes her as the final doppelganger, completing his mission to purge the building of the alien threats. The soldier returns one last time to debrief the landlord. He confirms that the city is doomed and that his mission was ultimately a failure. He advises the landlord to flee for his life, though he admits that escape is highly unlikely before the nuclear missiles arrive and destroy everything. Back in the perceived safety of his apartment, the landlord is suddenly attacked by the bro, who is hiding under his bed the whole time. In one of the game's bad endings, the bro succeeds, killing the landlord and taking his place, only to discover that the primary human emotion is pain. The playthrough explores several of the game's bad endings. The landlord can choose to go to the roof and use the shotgun on himself to avoid a more painful death from the blast. Alternatively, he can simply leave the building and be vaporized by the incoming nuclear missiles. In the game's best ending, a prepared the landlord anticipates the bro's attack. He checks under his bed before going to sleep and manages to kill the hostile doppelganger with his shotgun before it has a chance to strike, securing his own survival against the immediate threat. After killing the bro, the friendly female doppelganger, waifu, appears. She invites the landlord to escape with her to the secret underground facility where they were created, as it is the only place that can withstand the impending nuclear blast. This offers a glimmer of hope for survival.